Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today to share with you this tutorial, a DIY on how to make a tassel or two tassels out of DMC floss. So for this project, you are going to need a whole skein of DMC floss. I am using the lighter color here, and what you want to do is you want to take off those two ends or the paper fasteners. Keep them together, and then you want to separate the skein. So open it up so that you have a long loop. And then you want to twist that loop and put them together. So fold it in half and twist it so that you have a much shorter loop. Then with those little paper things, you want to trim them so that they're both the same size as the smaller piece, and discard that longer piece. And then that is going to be what holds the skein together while you get it situated. So next you want to measure out 16 inches, the length of this is going to be the hanger of the tassel. And so 16 inches, you are going to separate that 16-inch length into 3 strands each. So each DMC floss comes in 6 strands. You want to separate this in half so that you have 2 3-strand strands. And one for the top and one for the bottom. One for one tassel, one for the other tassel. And then you are going to use an embroidery needle, and you are going to thread the needle to be able to put the bead that you're using or decorative element. I'm using a bead onto this loop that is going to be the hanger. And so I have a 6mm bead here. This is just a simple star. I was going to use a faceted bead, but I wasn't able to get my needle through that. And so you're going to go up, create a loop at the top, and then come back down and leave that loop. Then what you want to do is you want to tie knots at the top and at the bottom to secure this so that the bead doesn't slide, particularly off the top. And because of the size opening that I have in the bead, I am going to double knot this. Some of them, it just depends on the size of the opening. Just one is sufficient. And you want to use your needle to really help position the knot down into the top of the bead. So I'm using the needle to pull the loop through, and then I will use the needle again. In this case, I don't need to because it's right there, to put the knot on top of the other knot. But you can use your needle, position it, and then pull the needle out to give you a really tight knot. So I did 2 knots on the top of the bead, and I'm still knotting the top of the bead. 2, I think, was sufficient. I'm not sure why I did 3. I think I did 3 because I had 2 side by side and I needed to get them stacked on top of each other. So then I'm going to pull the bead up snug to that knot. And this is where you'll see how I use the needle to pull the tail through, but then I'm also going to use the needle, so I put it back into the knot, and the needle is how I position that second set of knots super close to the edge of the bead so that it doesn't slide and there's no wiggle room, and then I push it up with my fingers as well. So that bead is just mostly it's the top knot that you need so that the bead doesn't slide off the loop and contains the bead there. So yeah, I need a second knot because of that bigger bead. You're going to repeat that with the other set of string and another bead because you are making 2 tassels out of this one skein of DMC floss. So repeat that. Then what you are going to do is you are going to tie this loop onto the double folded skein. And you want to make sure that the bead is on the outside and the knot is on the inside. So how I'm tying this here is not going to work. It works because I'm not going to tie the knot super tight and I'm going to flip the whole thing around. But you really want the loop on the top there. Yep. And the knot underneath. And I am going to double knot this. So you see how I flipped it through so that the bead is on the outside. And then I'm going to pull that and then double knot it. And after you double knot it, because this is literally just to hold all of those threads together, and then give you that loop on the top of the tassel. And then I'm going to tie a second knot on the inside. So double knot it so that it's nice and tight and snug, and then trim off the ends with your scissors. Now, if you are a paper crafter, I highly recommend that you use fabric scissors for this. Those are my fabric scissors. Those are not my scrapbook scissors because, yes, I don't know if you are a sewer, but paper scissors and fabric scissors are very different. So repeat that down the other end. So now you can see I have 2 beads, 1 on each end. Now I'm going to use these little fasteners, I call them loops, paper loops, and I'm going to thread the top loop of the tassel through there. And so this is going to hold all of your threads, your DMC floss, snug so that you can wrap it to have a head, quote unquote, on the top of the tassel. And then it also will give you a guide as to where to cut so that you have even threads all the way through. So what I did there, I did not tie that bead tight enough, and so the bead pulled off. You do want to be very careful as you are sliding this loop, this paper loop down, that you don't do what I just did and pull the bead off. I was able to thread the loop and get it the bead retied, but you have to be very gentle as you are pulling this down, and you really need to sort of squeeze. It's almost like a milking action when you're doing dough, and you need to squeeze these threads together. You almost need to massage them together so that they fit into the paper loop there. I left all of the process here together so that you would see that it's not easy to get that down over all of that bulk. See how I'm kind of massaging it down? So that is, and then you're going to repeat that on the other end. So now I have 2 ends. And now I'm going to put the wrap on the top. So you want to cut 2 pieces of floss. I'm using a darker floss. Each one is going to be 12 inches in length. You don't need all of that length, but it's nice to have all of that length just in case you do want to use it. And what you're going to do is you're going to, at the 1/3 mark, create a loop. So you can see how I created a half loop, and now I've got at the 1/3 mark. So that loop, the opening of the loop is going to be down to the center. And then I'm going to secure that with my thumb and finger, and then take the long length and wrap that all the way around. So you can see what I'm doing there. And you want to wrap that really tight. So I'm trying to hold the initial wrap with my thumb as I'm going. And that shorter loop, you're going to use, that shorter tail, I apologize. You're going to use that tail. So you don't want to wrap that in as you're wrapping around the head or the top of the tassel there. So I've wrapped this around maybe 5-6 times, and keeping that super tight. Then when you've got enough wrap and you determine what enough of that is, you're going to take the loop, bring the loop up, and pull the short tail through that loop. And if you keep pulling that short tail, so not the one that you were wrapping with, the one that was from the original loop, you're going to pull that through, and the loop closes and creates a nice secure knot through all of the wrap there. Pretty cool, huh? And you don't need to tie that off if you don't want to, because that is a knot in and of itself. So then you're just going to trim those edges with your scissors. And after you have done that, you almost have your tassel. So now here's the most exciting part, or I think it's the most exciting part. You are going to trim straight across at the bottom of the paper loop there. And then you want to clean that off because you want all of your tassel lengths to be the same and nice and clean and no frayed edges. Voila! And then here's the magic. Pull that little paper loop off and ta-da! You have made your own DMC floss tassel. Look how cute that is. And I am going to use it on a scrapbook project, but you can do it whatever you would like to do with it. So just repeating the same thing on the other end there. And now you have 2 tassels. So in the close-ups to follow, you will see how I've used that in a December Daily Foundation page. You could use it on the outside of mini albums, on the outside of your December Daily. Super fun. Customize it with any color that you like. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial process. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Enjoy the close-ups. Hope you're doing well. Come back again soon. Take care.